Welcome to Aquarius season. We're going to be diving into all the goodness that Aquarius season will bring. But first, I think we could stop and, just talk about where we are right now. So how are you doing, Amy?
Aquarius season, it's here we go. We're choosing timelines, aren't we? How are you doing, Alexis?
Good. Well, I love Aquarius season. I think Aquarius is a very I guess just to touch into Aquarius, the sign, it's an air sign. It's the third of the three air signs. So it definitely has a feel of intellect and, like the air signs have that kind of mental communication vibe, but it really is this like higher mind. It has this very visionary, expansive energy. To me, astrology is a great like example of, an Aquarian kind of tool because it's this higher vibratory energy. And so it really pushes us to connect to our authentic self. It's like, it's the rebel, but it's not just, just this from a human perspective too. It's also like really high truth coming in as well. So the symbol for Aquarius is the water bearer. So often people will kind of get confused and think it's a water sign because it has the symbol as the waves. And it's an air sign, but the water bearer is this like almost this like cosmic kind of energy of this it's a person who's a water bearer carrying this barrel of water, but it represents life energy, like pouring this life energy into the earth. So it has a very humanitarian feel to it too. So it's not the water, like it's not associated with the water element, but the sign is the water bearer. But the water represents almost this like mystical, right? It's not like the water as far as the water element we're used to, but it's like this mystical energy of like life, if that makes sense. So it's connected to spirit. I like to say too, like the air signs are connected to spirit. So it's almost like the intangible. So that kind of feels just a little bit on the sign of Aquarius. Is there anything to add that you're feeling just to add to that Aquarian vibe?
Just like touching into the value of how much the glyphs will tell us about a sign. The glyph for Aquarius is the frequency waves, whether they're water waves or air frequency waves. They're these frequency waves that are synced up. They're moving together. And for me, that is really where are we syncing up? How is like meeting like? And how are we calling forth those higher frequencies?
Yeah, I love that. So yeah, so more to unfold as we go through and we, pinpoint, but just so you get kind of a flavor of Aquarius and what the element is, and we'll go into everything for Aquarius season. But just before the sun moves into Aquarius, which happens on January 19th or 20th, depending on where you are in the world, just before that, and we're recording this on the 19th, so we're recording this on the day that the sun enters Aquarius. So we just had a full moon in Cancer, which was really big energy. It was aspecting Pluto. It was really big, just like a lot of releasing and all kinds of things coming up with that full moon. And then we had just yesterday, which was January 18th, Uranus stationed direct, and the nodes shifted signs, which is a big deal. So the North and the South node shifted, which happens every year and a half, into Taurus and Scorpio. So that is the axis that we'll be working with for this next year and a half. And that's a big shift. So we've had a lot of, big shifts just within a few days right before we enter Aquarius season. So it feels like the final push of Capricorn season. Just want to highlight that there's a lot going on. Like if it feels that way, like you're spot on, because it's a lot. Like there's a lot of this. I mean, that's one part of it, this final push out of Capricorn. The sun meets up with Pluto on its way out of Capricorn. It's pretty close to Pluto. It aspects the North nodes. We just talked about how those shifted. Well, the sun, right before it moves into Aquarius, makes a trine to the North Node in Taurus. So there's a lot of this like last push energy with Capricorn as we move out. And with the shifts of the nodes, like you can just feel, right? Even if I'm talking, you're like, what is she talking about? It sounds like a lot, right? And that's because it is.
It is a lot. And I know for me, it's a lot of potential. Like this last shift in Capricorn, the Taurus Scorpio nodal shift, which I've been very excited about, because I do feel like we're swimming in potential right now. We're just swimming in it. And a part of swimming in it, as a fire walking instructor, one of the things we talk about is purging the oil. And we pour in the water, and we pour in the water, and we pour in the water. So I love that you brought in Aquarius as the water bearer, and pouring in the water. And we pour in the water metaphorically and symbolically so that the oil and the mess and the muck, Pluto, rises to the top. The unseen rises to the top. And for me, that's a good thing, because we can't clean up what we don't see. I work with clients and I will say, well, you can't heal a wound if you won't look at the wound. You may have a big cut somewhere on your body, but if you won't look at the cut, we can't determine what needs to be done. So being able to see what's not working is a first step towards moving forward into what we could build, into our potential. So I love the Pluto energy in this. I love the Taurus Scorpio pieces, like really boots on the ground, end of Capricorn season. Here we go. All of this that's going on, the sun trining the North Node, really bringing in our will, that willpower, that sense of will, that ability to shine our lights on the field and see what grows. Seed planting time, people.
Yeah. And with the North Node shifting into Taurus, and with everything that's been going on with that full moon in Cancer, like you said, I feel like that's what it really was. A lot of stuff just coming to the surface, especially with Pluto there. But this North Node shifting into Taurus, it's really asking us to be present, to be in our bodies, to embody all the things, right? Like we can have dreams and we can have visions and we can have all of this stuff floating around, but we have to embody it. We have to live it. And so that's what we're being invited into for this next year and a half. And to be in our bodies isn't always the easiest thing. It really isn't. I feel like we live, from our neck up a lot of the time, right? We are just always in our heads. And so to bring ourselves down, to be in our bodies, to be present to what's actually happening, and not just dreaming about, or not even dreaming, but just thinking, maybe dreaming also about what's going to happen, and, thinking about stuff that has happened, all of the stuff that's in our head. It's like just making us be very present. And that's one of the messages that came through really loudly with this full moon. The full moon in Cancer was like just slowing down, being so present, because things are going to be on this kind of fast track. That's just kind of the new normal, if you will, of how things are, shifting. It feels like the last 2 years have kind of gotten us ready for that. And now we're just on this faster track. And then the fact that the sun trines the North Node, the newly in Taurus North Node, the sun before it enters Aquarius season, the sun in a harmonious trine illuminates the North Node, being like, yes, you are going through all of this stuff. You are, right, good, bad, or otherwise, just lots of things going on. And like, just take a minute to pause and remember. Right. And sometimes it's not even remembering like a logical thing. Like sometimes it can just be sitting in meditation and just having that, like sometimes there's not even words for it, but just a feeling of remembering. That's kind of what that sun in Taurus has the potential for. While there's so much going around, right? If we can slow down, just take a breath, take a moment, that feels like that's on offer just before the sun enters Aquarius, which is a very high vibe kind of energy.
It is a high vibe kind of energy, and that high vibe energy is going to carry us into through the end of January and into February in this, like for us in the Northern Hemisphere, this is the cold, deep, dark, we're not in the dark anymore, but the cold, this is our coldest part of the year. And that high vibratory Aquarius always feels like hope to me. It has that flavor of what are we hoping for? What can we dream into? Imbolc happens during Aquarius season, and Imbolc is considered the first festival of spring in the North. It's that moment where we're picking out our seeds, like we're back to the seed planting piece. And that's a very Taurus piece is what are we going to plant? And it's a call to start our dreaming into what we want to reach for. Because there is definitely the speeding up that you were talking about. We're moving and we're changing, and our capacity to shift ourselves and our lives is faster than it's ever been. At the same time, there's a weight to it. Like we have the potential to shift very fast, and the weight is almost our own denial of our ability to make the changes like that. It's that denial of, well, I can't possibly change that fast. Yeah, you can change that fast. You have the capacity to shift. I've spoken about this card shuffling analogy with the timelines, and I'm certainly watching that go on with clients and in my personal life. That time is doing this magnificent fanning out thing where it expands and it slows down. And that point in it feels like there's a choice. Like I can pick this timeline or this timeline as the cards settle into these two piles. And okay, well, I know I'm going to pick this timeline because this is what is aligned for me. And then the two piles shuffle back together, and there's this feeling of constriction as, okay, you've made a commitment and you're going to settle into here before it fans out again. So yeah, time is feeling funny right now. I love the idea of really slowing down and really simplifying and getting present. Because that feels like one of the big lessons of 2020 that we somehow missed. We somehow missed that we were all sent to our rooms to think about how we've been living. And we haven't carried that forward in our scramble to go backwards to something when the only way we can actually go is forwards. We don't realize how much that we just need to get back to normal is just as toxic as like make America great again, because I apparently can't shut my mouth right now. So let's stop with the get back to normal, because we can't go backwards. We can go forwards. And if we can go forwards in an integrated way where our words and our actions match, where our values line up, we can't say I'm not going to do this thing anymore and then not take action to stopping ourselves. We can't say, well, I'm going to start to eat better and then continue to eat like crap. I'm going to drink more water and still not do it. We need the integration. We need that cards coming together into one deck to really bring it in and ground it. To ground it in, especially during Aquarius season, ground it in, ground it down, keep like that really Taurus boots on the ground. Venus remains in Capricorn. She's got one more sweep to do once she turns direct, and we will get to that.
Yeah. And just to come back to the like potential that there is in Aquarius, of that slowing down feels like it allows the ideas to come in. Aquarius is great for ideas. It's a sign of inventions. It's like very, very like the ideas, right? The interesting things that can come to us, the creative kind of points of view, different perspectives. But we have to slow down and listen. And then we can be amazed by the, new thoughts we have, by the just amazing things that come in, but it's creating that space for it. And speaking of, one of the great days for that will be January 23rd, because Mercury, who is retrograde, will be conjunct the sun. So that means Mercury will start his new cycle. He'll be cazimi for a few hours that day. And he's going to be in what's the position called his inferior conjunction, meaning he is in line with the sun, closest to us. So he's between us and the sun. And there's kind of that moment of clarity. There's on either side of cazimi, you may have heard us talk about this before, it's called combust, and things get really just can't really think clearly. Sounds like it is, right? That's that combust energy. And then cazimi, when he's right, they call it in the heart of the sun, there's a few hours of clarity. So that day, just listening for, giving some space to yourself, journaling, meditating, just giving yourself a little quiet to listen, because that day will be a great day for that. And because it's in Aquarius, because Mercury is moving backwards, so he'll leave Aquarius soon, but he's still in Aquarius. That's where he starts his new cycle with the sun. Feels like there's this potential for really great ideas and really great perspectives, maybe just a different perspective on something that you've been going through, like a new way to see it, or a new creative idea, whatever it is. So that day, January 23rd, feels like there's big potential for that, creating the space to listen and for there to be some clarity. Because around that, but on either side of that, we've been in a lot of noise, and Mercury retrograde can be just a very introspective time, but it can also just be a time where we're just kind of observing and things aren't necessarily clear. There's just, information coming to us. But that day, January 23rd, when Mercury is cazimi, there's clarity.
So cazimi is a few hours. What is the time frame around combust? That cloudy, turbulent, noisy space where Mercury is passing through the turbulence into the heart.
It's when he's close to the sun. So it's like days.
We're in it.
Like it's really, like, if you look at, because he's going to be passing, and he's been on it, right? So he's going to pass back over the sun, back into Capricorn. It's going to take probably like a week or two before he's out of that combust energy. And I was going to look up the time of the cazimi just out of curiosity, so we can come back to that.
Yeah.
But absolutely. Yeah, the combust is a while. It's not like it's just like 1 hour on one side. It's like days.
It takes time to get from the edge of the sun to the heart of the sun.
Yes.
Yes. Which is good. This is good. I'm going down to do a test build this weekend. And we're, the 23rd will allow me a lot of clarity on whether this is going to work or not.
Yes. So the time for Mercury cazimi is about 5:30 a.m. Eastern. So for some people, that's very early morning or overnight, but it does last for a few hours. And so we can post in the show notes the time frame for that cazimi. But something that I also will do with Mercury's cazimi during time when I will most likely be sleeping, I'll kind of set an intention for my dreaming, and I'll kind of ask for that to come in my dreams and for me to remember. Now, I'm a big dreamer, so I remember my dreams. So that's something that I do that works for me. But again, right. And it can come in your dreams and you might remember something later in the day. I don't know if that's ever happened to you, where you have a dream and then like something reminds you of it and you're like, oh, that, right? Like if it's important and you need to remember it, like you'll know. So also that, like, you don't have to wake up in the middle of the night and be like, oh, this is my Mercury gazimi time, let me like set an alarm and journal. You don't have to do that. Like go about your normal flow, right? Like this is the thing. Go about your normal flow and work with like wherever it is. But it will be a few hours after that too. Depending on where you are in the world, that might be perfect time for you. It might be like just a great time. So we'll post in the show notes the kind of time frame, because I'm always interested in that. I'll always kind of just like make a note to myself, be like, just, and again, if I'm sleeping, like note to self, just, send me that message in my dream and go from there. So we'll put that in the show notes, but it hits exact, that moment of exact gazimi is around 5:30 a.m. Eastern.
Fabulous. I love it. And in almost all shamanic traditions, dreaming is something that the shaman do all of the time. We are right now living in someone else's imagination. Heard this in a podcast recently, and I'm just like, boom, I'm blowing. Like, we're driving cars, living in cities, living in homes, using stuff, the internet, Zoom, that somebody else imagined. So our dreaming and our time in shamanic journeying, meditation, prayer, our imaginal space is what is creating our future. Because we're living in somebody else's dream right now. So this, like, I've really been sitting with this idea that we are at this super potent moment of imagining. Like for me, I would love to see a world with more integrity. I would love to see a world where things are lined up more. I had a fundraiser call me today. He read his script. He did his little fake laugh. And I said, I said, I appreciate what you're doing. And the fact that I know you're reading a script and I'm not buying it, like right there, I don't want to work with your organization because there's no transparency and there's no authenticity and there's no integrity in this. So we are in this really super potent time, and we can dream at any point. So if you are a person who does not remember your sleeping REM space at night, in the dark, in bed dreams, that's okay. Set aside time during your day, your waking day, to do your dreaming, to turn on a drumming track and shamanic journey, to sit or move through a meditation, to pray, to contemplate, to read, to do whatever you need to do to move yourself into that space of potency.
Yeah. And dream journals work too. So leading up to that time, if like, oh, I really want to remember my dreams on January 23rd, journal a couple, like for that week. That helps. If you wake up in the morning, if you just remember a sliver of something and then you just do that, you will remember more just by journaling and like recalling each day. So just something, if it feels, if you're interested, if you are someone who doesn't remember your dreams. And then the next day we have Mars enters Capricorn. So, and then the day after that, Mercury enters Capricorn. So coming from different sides, because Mercury is in Aquarius going backwards into Capricorn, Mars is going forwards into Capricorn. So from two different ends, day apart, Mars and Mercury enter Capricorn. Now, Mars is exalted in Capricorn. He does really well in Capricorn. He's like that warrior, like takes, boots on the ground, like becomes the CEO, very, just gets stuff done. Like Mars really enjoys being in Capricorn. It's a very strong sign for him. He's able to, really take charge. So there feels like that's a supportive energy in us wanting to do things. Leo agrees. Amy's cat Leo agrees.
He's all about this.
moving forward. Like, it's a very supportive energy for, getting things done. Right. And so things that may have seemed like we've been kind of working on stuff, but things, are just kind of like, things have been weird. We get this really supportive energy with Mars to make things happen. And so that feels like, that is supportive. And then we also have Mercury retrograde entering Capricorn. So he doesn't just retrograde in one sign. We get Aquarius and Capricorn out of his retrograde. So we get a little bit of both, which also feels interesting. He's going to be close to Pluto and Venus. And so it feels like the messages, we'll get into that when he, will meet up with Pluto, but some of the messages that Mercury brings, very different flavor from Aquarius to Capricorn. So just feels like there's some diversity in the Mercury retrograde, like information we're gathering. And that's great. It's beautiful. Like, we get to kind of just see all different parts of ourselves, all different things coming up.
Yeah. And we've got, all three of our personal planets then will be in Capricorn.
Yes, we will have Mercury, Venus, and Mars all in Capricorn.
And working with that Capricorn builder, as Alexis likes to say, like boots on the ground time. Our personal planets are our planet of relationships, our planet of taking action, our planet of communication. They're all in there, really asking us for our potential and our building space. I'm really loving Capricorn and feeling like Capricorn is getting its time with Venus settling in to really be sexy.
Yeah, it feels very supportive with the sun being in Aquarius. So last year we had all the planets in Aquarius and it was not grounded. Here it's a different flavor. It feels like, and that was great, right? Like, we had a great time. Like, if you ever want to listen, we did cosmic cocktail party because everyone was in Aquarius. It was a lot of fun. I loved it. That time was like wildly just an interesting time. But it feels like that the Capricorn energy is supportive in a different way, in that like, it really brings things into reality. It really grounds us. It really reminds us of what we're doing. It can also we can also kind of get stuck in that. We can get stuck in the like reality and the like tangible and forget about the dreaming and the, so it's a balance. The sun is illuminating Aquarius, which is great. And then we have our personal planets in Capricorn. So it does feel balanced and just a reminder to like, kind of have one foot in both, like be able to dream, have the ideas, and also be rooted and grounded. It feels like it's great energy with, just kicking up some stuff too, because Mercury will trine the North Node. This is the first time that they'll trine in Taurus. So they made a trine recently, I think the end of December. But the North Node was in Gemini at that point. So this is new. Mercury trining the North Node. Now the North Node is kind of that like compass. It's like, go this way, just like what we really, on a soul level, what we really want. And it also pushes us though. It makes us feel really uncomfortable because it's pushing us out of our comfort zone. So that's right. That's also coming up, that as Mercury trines the North Node, and this is also happening a little bit with the sun trining the North Node as we entered Aquarius season, but Mercury really brings the thoughts and the information along with that to really point us towards where we want to go. And it might not be like, our human might not be comfortable with it. It might really freak us out because we just don't know how. We don't like understand. We can't see past the past the edge of the cliff, but it's there. So it's kicking up stuff that may make us feel uncomfortable, but just know when you can lean into that bigger perspective, like, oh, this is actually something that I want. It just pushes me out of my comfort zone. So knowing that happens again, January 26th, Mercury trining the North Node for the first time in Taurus.
And that is I think about something someone said once about the fact that we oftentimes as humans will hold ourselves back from what we want or what the potential is because we can't see around the corner. Like you saying, like we can't see what's over the cliff. We can't see around the corner. And it is trusting that we're held and that if we want it from a deep soul aligned desire place, it's probably ours already. We just need to take the steps toward it.
Yeah,
to anchor it in.
Yeah, it's removing the resistances around it, right?
Mm-hmm. To anchor it in. And we can get so caught up in our ideas of who we think we are and who we think we're being with how we're showing up, right? I'm showing up this way, I'm doing these things, therefore that makes me these labels. Except you're getting in your own way. Because really, we get in our own way more than anybody else does. Nobody else gets in our way. We get in our way. We're the people that stand between ourselves and everything we want. So I'm just like the personal planets in Capricorn. If you want to go visit what it felt like to have them in Aquarius, that would be episode 5, the Cosmic Cocktail Party. And this does feel like a little revisit of the party. Because we've got our personal planets in there. They're all touching base with Pluto, being like, hey, what's up? Because he missed out on the Cosmic Cocktail Party last year.
Right.
So
he was in Capricorn still.
He was in Capricorn still. So he watched everybody get together and have a great time. Yeah. And now like everyone's kind of checking in a year later with the news on how things have gone. And Pluto's like, okay, well, we can transform that. We can alchemize this to move this into a catalyst for change.
Yeah. And speaking of Pluto, on January 28th, Mercury is conjunct Pluto. So this will be the second time because, right, Mercury is moving backwards. So the first time when Mercury was moving forward, that happened on December 30th. Mercury and Pluto met up. And so now this is the second time. Mercury's retrograde. So he's like, let's revisit that. Let's go back and touch in again with Pluto and just see, let's go a little deeper. So it's a revisiting. It's Mercury and Pluto to me. It's like really highlighting the things that we need to see, like brings everything to the surface of what we need to see so that we can move forward, so that we can transform. Because then there will be a third pass as well. So that second pass, we're just in the middle of it, right? We're in the like revisiting, like, okay, let's go back, let's go deeper. So that is January 28th, Mercury conjunct Pluto.
And there is going to be 3 passes. So if you're a person that journals, dig out your journal, see what was going on in your life around December 30th, what things were up. We're gonna, retrograde is a go deeper, review, renovate, have a little RE word, reconstruct, and we're going to visit it again. And then you get a third chance to do it, just in case you didn't get it on the first 2. You get a third chance to see it and decide what your plan's going to be.
Yes. And the third pass will be February 11th, we'll come back to that, but just to put that in so that all 3 are there so that we get that first pass happen December 30th. Second pass will be January 28th. And the third pass of Mercury and Pluto in Capricorn will be February 11th when Mercury at that point is direct. So those are the 3 Mercury-Pluto dates. And then we also have, because she's been very close, like her retrograde started with Pluto, Venus stations direct on January 29th. So she's been retrograde since December 19th. And I've been feeling it. She also she rules my chart. So like, I really feel the Venus retrogrades, but she's been retrograde since December 19th. So again, January 29th, she stations direct at 11 degrees of Capricorn. And in her station, so the day that she stations direct, she makes an aspect to Uranus, who is now
Direct.
and he is the change maker. He is like the rebel. He's in her home sign. He's in Taurus. So that to me feels significant, that there's this, like, she's just coming out, like emerging from the underworld, and Uranus is there to be like, yeah, revolutionary, like, here we go, moving forward. All this stuff that came up during Venus retrograde around our self-worth, around our relationship with money, our bodies, all of that stuff, like, we come to the surface. Now, she will still be in her shadow until March 1st, meaning when you think about the area that she passes over, she goes forward, she retrogrades back, and then she comes forward again. When she retrogrades, she still has to go over all that territory that she traveled. So we're still in that third pass, that kind of understanding, the getting the clarity, getting the, okay, yeah, I see it now. Now that I'm out of the dark, I see it. So we're still in her shadow until March 1st, but there's definitely a change of energy with her moving direct on January 29th. And she also, so we talked about, she's trining Uranus. She makes a square to Chiron, who's the wounded healer, who also, he's stationed direct the day that she's stationed retrograde. So it feels like there's some medicine that Chiron can bring. He is a medicine man, like that's what he does. He heals wounds. So for her to come out with Chiron being there just feels really supportive for everything that we've been through. Like, it feels very held, having Chiron there. And then it's also conjunct Vesta. So her and Vesta are together. And Vesta is our inner flame, like our inner temple. And that, right, like, it all feels very supportive for Venus coming out. And yeah, doesn't that feel great, Venus and Vesta being together?
Yeah, it feels beautiful. I was going to say, if anyone wants to go a little deeper on this Venus piece, join our Patreon. You will get the episodes that we've done, and one of them includes Venus's journey and the correlation with that to the underworld, and that ascent piece, which is so much of the medicine, is this, now we're going to move forward. I love that Uranus is also aspecting this shift with Chiron, because one of Chiron's aspects, he's not just a medicine man and a healer, he's also a maverick. He does things differently. You know, one of the things, he was Kronos's child and he rebelled against his father. And a lot of what we here in the United States are facing with our Pluto return is healing our father line, healing the repressive father, and how the child that is repressed can become the repressive father. So Chiron breaking away from that, acting as the maverick with Uranus, who is the king breaker, and, you know, rolling through the sky on his side. It's one of my favorite Uranus feels, is that, like, Uranus is out there and he's going to do it his way. And we're back to that, like, ability for lightning fast change, because Uranus does carry that. So it just feels, you know, what are you doing to nourish your inner temple? You know, how fast can you allow yourself to change? How fast can you allow the information to come in and then act on it? Well, I know I don't want this. I know I want that, you know, and just go grab it, because it will support and fuel your inner flame. It'll nourish your inner temple to be able to make those changes and to utilize that medicine.
Yeah. And around that time, so the end of January, the sun is in a square to Uranus. It hits exact on January 30th, but even around that, when Venus goes direct, like, the sun will be squaring Uranus. And so that also feels like it's maybe poking at, where are you being really true to yourself? right? Like this squares can kind of bring a challenge. The sun brings illumination. So it may be pointing like, where are you trying to fit yourself into this little, this little space? Like you don't belong there. Like you belong on the open, like, right. Like the open fields. Like, what are you doing trying to squeeze yourself into this, little box? And so it may not be comfortable to see, but it may be some of that too, of like, where are you being really true? Where are you, it's even in conversations, like, are you finding yourself just like agreeing with something just to like smooth things over, or right, whatever it may be, that as Venus is coming out, she's like, yeah, I'm ready. Like I've spent this time in the underworld. Like I've coming out, like I know my self-worth. I know who I am. And the sun is going to be like, oh yeah, you do. Okay. Well, let's see.
Let's actually see, because I'm going to push against you. Do you really know your self-worth? And is it you that's putting you in a box, or are you trying to crawl into a box for somebody else? Because both exist. And you don't, like Alexa said, you don't belong in a goddamn box.
No.
Take up your space, value yourself.
Yeah. So that's how we close out January. But I love, Venus stationing direct feels really great. Again, she's going to be in shadow until March 1st. So there's still more there. But that's how we close out January. And then we open February with a new moon, which feels really, well, this actually, depending on where you are in the world, it may be on, so everything, the times that I list are Eastern time. So just, there's that. But February 1st, there's a new moon in Aquarius squaring Uranus. Now, Uranus is a ruler of Aquarius. So Aquarius has two rulers, Saturn and Uranus. And we're going to be doing, by the way, we're going to be doing an Astrology like 101 Foundations podcast series. So we're going to be going into all the like basics for those who are like, I kind of know what you're talking about, but we're gonna do a whole like series on the zodiac, the planets, chart rulers, all the things. So that just felt to drop in as well. But so keep an eye out for that into January. But yeah, we open February with a new moon in Aquarius squaring Uranus, who we've been talking about, and he is a ruler of Aquarius. So it feels very, it feels very potent, and more of this coming up. And it's also a new beginning. It's like that planting the seed, that new cycle with Uranus there. So there's some like, right, there's some of that stuff that's coming up of like, where are you being really true to yourself and really being honest with yourself? Like, this is one of the things that, I'll say to myself all the time. It's like, it's just me. Like, what am I trying to hide from myself? Right? Like, let's get in there. Let's really be real. And so that feels like the energy that we open the month with is this new moon in Aquarius.
Yeah. For those of us here in Central Time Zone or West, our new moon will actually, we have two new moons in January, because we're just at the cutoff time-wise before it becomes February. And there is, it's, it is all about where you land on the planet, whether you're having two new moons in January and then, two new moons in March, is all about where you're landing in the planet. Because February is this little tiny itty bitty short little baby month in there. And what I was going to say just left, so I'll shut up. It just like left, it flew the coop. It'll come back if it's important.
Yeah. But yes, and that's going to happen because we have our new moons for the first few months for like February, March. They land around the first of the month. So that's going to happen where it's either going to be end of the month or beginning of the month, right? So just depending on where you are in the world. But yeah, new moon in Aquarius, also really great time to like, and again, it's planting the seed. It's not like things might not be fully seen, but you can plant intentions and set intentions as far as the creative ideas. And also my cat's running around like crazy. So I guess the new moon in Aquarius is gonna be
hey, Joey.
Wild. Did you hear him? He just answered.
I did. Love you, Joey. He's a little bobcat.
Oh my God, that's so funny. So yeah, new moon Aquarius, can't wait.
Can't wait. Joey says big things are happening, so be prepared.
Oh, so good. So great.
Just can't make it up.
I love it.
We'll check back with you on how that all goes down.
Yeah. I also find new moons to be a really great time to like if you have oracle or tarot cards, to pull some cards, to like just be like open to what wants to come, because often with new moons it's yeah, setting intentions, but it's also often we can't see everything, right? It's the dark, it's the new moon, we can't see everything, so it's kind of being open to like, what are the messages that I need to hear, rather than little ego me like wanting to like, I'm going to plant this seed about this thing, which is great. Sure, you can do that. But I find that it's a great place to be really curious and open. Like, oh, what do I need to hear? What is the support I need? Like asking the questions and then almost like letting your intention come to you. So also just a note for that, you know, it's a great time for pulling cards, for just being curious, open, asking questions, seeing what comes.
And if you have an extra $1 in your wallet, just sign up for our Patreon and we will pull you cards. Because we do a card pull. If you have $5 extra in your wallet, then you'll get a full moon card pull too. That's 2.
Yes. Yep. And we do it at the beginning of the month. So yes, this will be right in tune. It'll be perfect for the new moon.
You will get to hang out in our charming presences.
Yes. So much fun. I do.
So
I do really love playing cards. It's been fun to be able to share, because I do it for myself. So it's been fun to share and pull cards for our patrons. Yes. So then a couple of days after the new moon, any last thoughts on the new moon?
I think Joey really summed it up there with the racing through the house. For those of you that don't know, Joey is a 13-pound like miniature bobcat. He's got the biggest, squarest head you've ever seen on a cat. And he's really quiet normally. So the fact that he was being loud enough to hear says that just to me speaks to the weight of the new moon.
Yeah. I also love that he answered you like, yeah, just everything about that. Yeah. We'll just leave that as is. Because then a few days later, we have Mercury stationing direct. So again, he'll be in Capricorn when he stations direct. Again, just like Venus, he'll still have a shadow period of where he needs to retrace and in that forward motion. So he will be in shadow until around February 24th. But when he stations direct, again, it's that forward motion, he's doing it conjunct Pluto. So I feel like Pluto has been a very big theme for both the Venus retrograde and the Mercury retrograde. Pluto. So he stations direct, forward motion, like feels like that day there's some big messages too, like just like in the transition of Mercury conjunct Pluto.
What's that date again, Alexis? Just so it's
February 3rd.
Okay.
February 3rd. Yep. Just 2 days after the new moon. And so Mercury will also be aspecting, he'll be conjunct Pluto, but then also aspecting the moon and Neptune in Pisces in a sextile, which is supportive. So that feels very different energy than we've kind of been in. Is this like reminder of the moon and Neptune together, which the two of them is like a beautiful combination in Pisces, like just really yummy energy. But it's interesting. So they're in Capricorn. Pluto and Mercury in Capricorn is kind of one feeling. And then the moon and Neptune in another is another feeling, but they're aspecting each other. So it's almost like this communication back and forth because I feel like this Piscean energy is really going to open up as the year goes. Like this is a big theme for the year, is Jupiter's in Pisces, Neptune's in Pisces. They're going to meet up, but to have the moon and Neptune together in Pisces, Jupiter's there, but just not as close to Neptune yet. It feels like there's this communication between Mercury and Pluto and the moon and Neptune, like yes, we have this forward motion. Yes, like we've been boots on the ground, like Mars is in Capricorn, right? Like we're doing the things, but also to remember the dream and to remember like this bigger dream. Like it feels like there's this very slowing down energy in it, which is interesting because as we have Mercury moving forward, we have this slowing down energy. And that almost feels like a theme overall, like over this whole Aquarius season, is just the being able to slow down and be present. So that's just an interesting, dynamic there as Mercury stations direct, to have both of those going on.
Yeah, it's good. And I love the, like, bringing us back to slowing down and being present, grounding. It does feel really, really important. And it feels like it's going to be able to help us. I get in the way of dreaming sometimes because I'm so grounded. But bringing those dreams like really in, and slowing down and savoring them. Like, that's one of my little Taurus rising's favorite words, is to savor it, to slow down, because there does feel like there's a sensuality with the moon and Neptune coming together in Pisces. There's a disillusion of edges almost, and a really like deep falling into source.
There's this softening that feels like a lot of the energy is this more forward, right? Like I want to say masculine, just that like forward moving energy. And we all have it, right? We all have our masculines, how we get stuff done. But then it's like this feminine. The moon is a feminine, planetary body, and it feels like it's bringing us, like, reminding us of that, right? Because it's always a balance. Like, sometimes we can get too much in one side, too much on the other. So it feels like it's this like reminder to soften. To even my screen, just like, did you see the light change on the screen? It's like softened. To really lean into like doing something nice for yourself, like relaxing, just really enjoying it. And that's the other thing of doing something nice. And even like I was thinking about this for myself for the week. I was like, what can I do that's not necessarily like going out and getting a massage every night? Because I did get a massage last week, but I'm like, what can I do that's like that, but that I'm not going to spend all my money in a week? And it was like, I can just like put a heating pad on, and I can just, enjoy this, like light a candle, read a book, have some tea, those things, the small or the big. But no matter what it is, even if it is treating yourself to a massage, or if it's,
coming to a retreat in Minnesota.
Yeah. Going to retreat, whatever it is, like not having the guilt that can sometimes come with it of like, oh, I'm spending money on myself, right? Because even if it's like, oh, I'm going to buy this like lovely latte drink or some special, right? Like whatever it is, treating yourself in some way, and then not having the guilt, being able to receive it, right? So that's clearly what I'm in this week. So I'm just sharing that.
Well, and what's coming up is like, there's this union feel to it, of the inner and the outer. The deep recognition that we hold an infinity inside of us, like that like softening in and being able to receive into our infinite space. And we exist not separate from everything around us and outside of us. Like we're all the same thing. And our meat suit barriers, they're just pretend. Like they're just a game of dress up that the universe is playing. Like the universe exists inside of us, and the universe is all around us. So this moon Neptune piece really feels like that sacred union of just that everything is.
Yeah. And it also feels like with that North Node in Taurus, the embracing, or as Amy would call it, our meat suit. And I tend not to love that word because I feel like it diminishes the value of the body. Like to me, the body is it's a manifestation of spirit. Like it's so amazing, right? And so, but I love it too, because it's like we're not just these bodies, like we are more than that. And I feel like there's this reminder to really like be embodied, to really appreciate the fact that we can feel and we can do these
Yeah.
things. That's what makes it fun. We were just, if we didn't have a body, we'd be floating, and I'm sure that's cool too, just to be able to be
Walk
there. But
through walls.
yeah, but I think it would get boring. And so that's why we come here. We come here because we want to play and we want to feel and we want to interact in this 3D world. And so to me, there is that too, of like that slowing down, that remembering that we are so much more, that there's just like, right, because we can get very stuck in what we can see. And at the same time, North Node and Taurus reminding us like our bodies are just so magical. And I think we give our bodies a really hard time a lot of the time. And we don't even really think about a lot of things in our body that are like, we just take it for granted that our body is like doing all of these amazing things to keep us alive without us even having to think about it. And so there's that too, of like all of that. And that feels very feminine too. Like the body is feminine. The body is like how we interact, how our life force, how everything that's alive interacts with life. So yeah, all of that.
All of it.
All of it. But feels like a really
Pisces, all of it.
Yes. Yes. And then we get some more ignition to Pisces with Jupiter in Pisces. So on February 4th, we have Mars in Capricorn, sextile Jupiter in Pisces. So this feels like a little ramp up of energy, a little like ignition of Jupiter is also this optimism. He's this like, feels like this like very expansive, but there's this almost courageous feeling with Mars and Jupiter coming together, like almost this, I can, taking on the world energy, which when, used in the right way can be really useful and can really be great to get a lot of things done. So that happens the same day as the Sun conjunct Saturn. So let's not forget about Saturn over in Aquarius, because that's where Saturn has been.
And will be
for a bit longer. But he's in the middle of Aquarius now. He's like at his halfway point kind of. And so the sun illuminates Saturn. So we have that all happening on the same day, which I feel like definitely feels like an energizing kind of day, like taking charge. There may be some things coming up, especially with Saturn, because Saturn can sometimes bring constriction of like us wanting to like, do all these amazing things. And then there might be this, but yeah, like this put in the brakes on and just like, and so just the checking, because it doesn't have to be a push pull. It can be, if they work together, it can be a really beautiful energy of like having this inspiration, having this energy, and then being able to root it and ground it and making it, real. That can be the highest expression of that day's energy. But if not, it can be a little bit of push pull, like one foot on the gas, one foot on the brakes kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't have, that doesn't work that way. You have to pick one or the other. And we are feeling so supportive, and we can't forget that Saturn is in Aquarius all this year. He's not done there. And Saturn for me will hold whatever we choose to build. We can build ourselves into something small. What's actually coming to mind is when I was little, my mom had us help her paint the basement floor to keep her two young children busy. And we actually painted her into the corner. Saturn was not held in the situation. The workforce was not given instruction by Saturn. So the workforce painted Saturn into a corner. Because Saturn will do as we set it up to have happen. And so there is a level of being really aware of what you're imagining, what your thoughts are, what your words are, because all of those things are setting up what you want your life to look like. We're back to that, like imagining the world we're living in is what someone else imagined. So let's be really aware of what our thoughts and our words are, because Saturn is collecting that stuff and dumping it in containers and using it to build.
Yeah. And it also feels like a reminder, because Saturn has been in Aquarius and was a big energy of 2021, that because Jupiter was there too in 2021, there was this big expansion of Aquarius.
Mm-hmm.
So looking at what area of your chart Aquarius is, because it feels like this day where the Sun and Saturn meet up, it's like it's this reminder, because Saturn's there for the long haul. He's there for, overall about 3 years. And so it's this reminder of like, we're still working on that area.
Yeah.
Right. So like there's still stuff that we're doing, and it feels like that day is a great reminder of that, because I mean, we're in it. So it's not like, but it's that kind of touch point of reflecting too on how far we've come in 2021. And so definitely taking a look at Aquarius in your chart, seeing what house it's in. But even if you're not familiar with your chart, you can kind of just feel into what area of your life was really expanding in 2021. And like, there's still more work to do, right? So that day, February 4th, feels like the sun highlighting that is just a reminder of kind of all that we've been working on, and that we're still in it. Like Saturn's he's still in the middle of it, which can sometimes be helpful to like, oh, that's right. Okay. Like we're still in the middle. Great. Like I don't have to have it all figured out. But it is this illumination. So there may be more that comes forward in that area of your life. That just feels like in the bigger cycle of things, right? It's kind of this touch point that day.
And I'm going to shamelessly self-promote. And for anyone who really wants to dig into this, I've got a 4-day women's retreat happening February 3rd through February 6th, which means that we will all be hanging out together on February 4th when Saturn and the Sun conjunct, to really like excavate how we can move forward and we can utilize these energies. Because riding these waves is much better than being swamped by them. It's much, much better than being swamped by them. And it doesn't mean that we don't ever get swamped by them when we're riding them. It's a different way of relating when we have the awareness. We can start to see our patterns better.
Yes. Yeah. And just as far as the dates, I was just, looking through for the Saturn dates. Saturn will be in Aquarius through March of 2023. So we have about another year or so of Saturn in Aquarius. And so again, we're kind of at that midpoint, because we've had Saturn for the past year. 2021 was a year where Saturn was big in Aquarius. And I believe he moved in the very end of 2020. Like I think it was December 2020. So yeah, if you feel into that period, it's, just about 3 years, give or take. And yeah, a little less than 3 years, but you get it.
Yeah.
That's the long haul, and we're kind of in the middle. So that also feels like just kind of the bigger picture, that Saturn will continue through Aquarius through March 2023.
And it's yummy, yummy stuff here.
Yep. So then we have Mars, who's in Capricorn, squaring Uranus and Taurus. So 2 earth signs. That also feels like Mars always brings ignition.
Is it a square?
Trine.
Okay. I was like, wait a minute, something's not computing.
Did I say square?
Yeah.
Sorry. It's a trine. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. If they're in both an earth, right, it would be a trine. And so that's a harmonious aspect. And so it brings that ignition, right, to Uranus. Uranus feels like he's been pretty big through this Aquarius season. Like he's been kind of loud. So igniting that, right? Igniting more of that revolutionary, being really authentic, the truth of the things, the places where the uncertainty kind of gets the best of us.
Yeah.
Because he wants to bring change. So that also feels like there's an ignition that day. Mars is he's a fiery little one. He fires up. And because he's really comfortable in Capricorn. Like he's just really, his fire is like, he's on fire.
Yeah.
He's like very on point.
He's got stuff to do and butts to kick.
Yeah.
Stuff to do.
In Mars fashion, yes, the little warrior.
Butts to kick.
Yes. So, and then we already mentioned, but Mercury will conjunct Pluto on February 11th. So we mentioned that's the third meetup of Mercury and Pluto. So that
which is Alexis's birthday, February 11th. So if anyone wants to send her messages.
That is my birthday. Yep. Aquarius here. Probably another reason why I love Aquarius season, right?
Happy birthday.
Yeah. So that'll be fun. That'll be a fun birthday. Mercury conjunct Pluto. I do love Pluto. So
I'm love Pluto.
I'm all for it. Yes. And then the next day, Mercury is in a trine to the North Node. Now, this is the second time, right? So we mentioned in January 26th was that first trine, but Mercury was retrograde then. So Mercury trine to the North Node January 26th. Now Mercury's direct. And so February 12th, it's the second trine to the North Node, right? So again, just more messages around that North Node, the things that made us uncomfortable that we've kind of, right? Like we just get more information, we get more insight. Maybe we can see more, maybe we can't, and maybe that's the point, but there's just more information, more insight that Mercury brings there. And even just a reminder, that, right, we're on this bigger journey, that the day-to-day things that we can get really caught up in maybe don't mean so much when we zoom out.
Yeah.
Right. Because that can be part of it too.
Yeah. We've got a calling that we're here to accomplish. Like we've all got our little soul contracts, our little missions. And collectively, the North Node in this case represents life's mission, like the mission of this planet, and what the plan is here for this organism, this macroorganism that is Gaia. And how do we each, in a human body, the liver cell needs to do the liver cell's job, and the kidney cell needs to do the kidney cell's job, and the brain cell needs to do the brain cell's job. And we're just little cells here, we've got a job to do that actually contributes to the whole. So when we're working with that energy, what is soul aligned for one is soul aligned for all. And there's flow to it. And so pay attention to the messages that you're getting about what your part to play is.
Yeah. And I was reading a beautiful quote this morning that was talking about like our purpose. It was like, our purpose isn't this thing that you search for. Like your purpose is what you do when you are living your life, when you are living from that place of fullness, when you are just going out there, being curious, right? Like, so it's not something to search for and be like, what is my purpose? Like you are living your purpose when you are being most authentic to yourself, like, right? Like great Aquarius vibe there of like, just be your true self, it has that unique, kind of flavor, just be that unique person. Cause it's like, if a liver cell tries to be, a heart cell, not going to work out. Like we need each cell to be their own unique thing. Because if everyone wants to be a heart cell, guess what? We're not here. Dead. Bye.
Dead.
Right? Like we need all the parts to help it. Just like we need everyone to like be in their unique truth. Because if you just have everyone trying to be someone else, it's not going to work.
That hive mind, the hive mind aspect of Aquarius. We all need to do it the same. We all need to be heart cells. That doesn't work.
Right.
No, like do that.
We need all of it. We need the lungs to help us breathe. We need the liver to detox. Like we need the brain. Like we need all of it. So yeah, if you just have all heart cells, you're not going to make it.
You're screwed.
Yeah. Bye.
Or if you have all brain cells, the god of reason will always screw you if you're all brain cells. So diversify.
Yeah. Everyone just do your job.
So much fun when you get a little sassy. Like it
Yeah.
takes a lot of work to get you there, but it's fun
I
when we get you there.
Well, this also brings us to one of my favorite aspects of Aquarius season. At the very end of Aquarius season, we have a few things. So around February 14th, first of all, the moon moves into Leo, which is a sign of the heart. So February 14th, Valentine's Day, feels very beautiful. I love it. And this is just like little story time. I've always been a fan of Valentine's Day. And it's probably because my birthday is just a few days before Valentine's Day. So when I was little, I always thought that all the Valentine's decorations were for me. So my mom's like, you used to love Valentine's Day because you'd be like, there's hearts everywhere and everything's, I used to think it was for me. So I have always been a fan of Valentine's Day. And then as I got older, I realized people didn't like Valentine's Day because if you weren't in a relationship, if you were in a relationship that you didn't like people put all this stuff around Valentine's Day. And I was like, I don't know. I love it. And I still love it because I feel into that like little girl of me who's just like, it's love. It's great. It's my birthday. It's like all this stuff that I feel like no matter where you are, like if you are by yourself, like Valentine's Day is just a day of love, like love yourself, like love whatever you're doing, just be in that place of like, like I'm out for a walk and I'm just looking around at like nature and all the things like, anyway, just a little, because I know people get
Little Mermaid witch, we love you.
Thank you. Yeah. So just, kind of just, not like I'm a fan of like, buying stuff and all the like, whatever.
Commercialization. We're not promoting commercialization. Go listen to Shop Your Values with Julie Kearns. That was episode 30. We're promoting the love, the self-love aspect of this.
Yes. And again, feeling into like Venus, it feels like just that, like just that self-love. She's just come out of her retrograde, like live it up, love it. Like doesn't have to be a day of like, I'm all alone. That, can be. And I can understand, like it can be hard to see people in relationships if that's something you want. Like there's a lot of stuff around Valentine's Day. But I'm just going to bring it back to my little girl who loves all the, decorations, think it's all for me. Yeah. Like that's the vibe that I go with on Valentine's Day. So the moon being in Leo is a sign of the heart, feels like that's just like, yes, it's just more of the like, the cosmos are in line. They're they're on board with Valentine's Day this year. And
they're so on board.
They're so on board. Mercury moves into Aquarius that day. So Mercury, who, because he was retrograde, moved into Capricorn for a little bit, he comes back into Aquarius. So Mercury moves into Aquarius that day, which also just kind of brings in that new perspective and maybe like thinking about Valentine's Day in a new way, right? Like maybe you've been someone who has always hated Valentine's Day. Maybe throwing out the like, even having to call it Valentine's Day, but just this day of self-love, right? Like Mercury is coming into Aquarius to just, switch things up. And then also that day, a lot happening that day, the North Node is in a trine to Pluto. So that feels like an interesting and also supportive kind of, message that day to like be on. So for those people who maybe are not in the right relationship,
get out of it.
Yeah, Pluto might have something to say about that. Like, is it in line with where you want to go, like on a deeper level? And the piece that I'm really feeling is 2 days later is the Venus-Mars conjunction. So this is the part that I'm also feeling like it's very, there's a lot of like synchronicities with it because, so Venus and Mars are conjunct in Capricorn. This is the second time that they've formed a conjunction. So this is unique in that when Venus and Mars come together, it's like the two of them starting a cycle. They do this every so often, but this time they meet up 3 times before they get going. Usually it's just once, but every once in a while they'll meet up 3 times because of retrogrades and things. So this is the second time that they have met up. So the first time was back in July in Leo. And why I think this is interesting is because that day there's a full moon in Leo. So we mentioned the moon moved into Leo. It's not just the moon in Leo, it's a full moon in Leo. Yes, the sign of the heart. And so that was where they met up first, was July 13th in Leo. Now they're gonna meet up again in Capricorn for a second time. So it's just, there's like this ultra potent energy of creation. If you feel into the feminine, the masculine aspects, that if we're just talking about within ourselves, like really coming together, and we get 3 shots at it before they go off on in their cycle. So it's this really potent, like creative energy. So it can be a creation of relationship, sure, but when we look within, it can be the creation of really anything. Like the potential is endless of the creation there. And to know that we also have a 3rd conjunction in March. So these 2 are closer together because we had to wait a little bit. We had the July conjunction, then we had to wait a little bit. Now we have February 16th and then March 3rd. They conjunct at 0 degrees of Aquarius. So that's 0 degrees is a critical degree. It's like a very potent degree. So the fact that that's their 3rd conjunction before they go off, and it's in Aquarius, like there's this, all of this stuff that is happening around that time. And also the full moon is in a square to the North Node. So the North Node feels very big. Like it's very, like if you're not on the right
path,
yeah, if you're like a little off, if you're just trying to like sweep stuff under the rug, I think this is going to be a time when a lot of stuff is, you know, coming to its fullness. So that whole period around the February 14th, 16th, a lot going on.
Yeah, taking action in our personal relationships, taking action in our relationship with ourselves and how we meet ourselves. For me, Leo is really the sign of our personal sovereignty, of how we claim responsibility for the life we've created. And if we're working from a heart-centered place, and with the archetypal lovers coming together in a conjunction with this, it really does feel like, are we taking heart-aligned action? Are we working from our personal sovereignty around, you know, actually living our self-esteem, living and acting from a place of self-worth and self-value, rather than living and working from a place where we're always in a competition with anybody else? Or, you know, I think about people pleasers. I think about, you know, all of the messy ways that we show up in relationship to each other, to people outside of us. It's because we're messy internally. And because we're not really grounded into our personal sovereignty, and that sovereignty doesn't live in our heart space, that we're moving from collective distortions around what love and relationship is, rather than moving from a place of value in ourselves and setting an example of what it is to have self-esteem and to move to like Mars that shit.
Yeah, and it is also 2022 is the year of the Lovers card in tarot. So it also, right, that they meet up twice and they've already had their first conjunction. Like it does feel very potent, and especially that Lovers card, to me, it always speaks to this vulnerability that it takes. Because in the tarot card, it's these 2 beings and they're both naked in this like Garden of Eden atmosphere. And it speaks to this like vulnerability that it takes to really be authentic, to really be our like true raw selves.
Yeah.
And that, again, it kind of comes full circle to this Aquarius. Like that's how we close Aquarius season, because Aquarius season is just really asking us to be our unique selves, right? It's like embrace the weirdness, embrace all of the things.
It's the weird.
Yeah, like that's Aquarius season. And so to come full circle with this, ending with this full moon on the day that Venus and Mars come together, these archetypal lovers, like in a year that is the Lovers card, it just feels like there's this yeah, like vulnerability and just being really like okay with that. Okay with, yeah, this is vulnerable to share. And and sometimes it doesn't even make logical sense to us, but whenever we're creating something, whenever, like, even if it's like from the small to the big, when we create something and we're birthing something, to be able to share that with the world, there's this vulnerability in that. And so that just feels like, to come full circle with Aquarius, is like, are you being really authentic and true to who you are? Right. And it can come with a lot of stuff, and that's okay. Like, you can work through the stuff as it comes up. But if you're being true to yourself, it hurts way more when you are in that stifled place, right, of constriction and not really being true to yourself, than it does when you are being true to yourself and having to deal with all of the things. It's actually easier, and we can kick up stuff and get fear, but it hurts way more to be in that like stifled place. That is just the ultimate worst. And so to know that too, like, yeah, it can be, kind of scary to open and to be vulnerable and to really be authentic, even with myself, but it's way better than the alternative.
Yeah. And it always comes back to, are we honest with ourselves? And if you are not honest with yourself, who in the hell are you going to be honest with? You're with yourself. It's the only person you're with from the day you're born until the day you die. Do yourself the service of being honest. Any other Aquarius pieces?
That's how we close it out. I mean, full moon to close
Okay.
out the season. Like, I think that's pretty
Yeah.
great. And then we'll enter Pisces season, which I feel like will really kick us off with this 2020 like energy that we're in. So yeah, I'm very excited, looking forward to that. But for now, we have a lot going on, a lot to look forward to in Aquarius season. And yeah, I feel like that pretty much sums it up as best we can, trying to sum up a whole month. And
yeah, in a little short period. If you want to hit us with some extra love, you can leave us likes or reviews or stars on Spotify or YouTube or Apple or all of the podcast places. Share us with your friends. Join our Patreon. Come and play with us in 2022.